Okay, so welcome back to the garage. I'm on location again. I'll talk to you about where I am and why I'm here in just a minute. So I want to recap on the last video if you saw the phase one complete, where we got the car back on the floor after all the rear end had been put back in, bushed up, new cooling system in, car holds temperature, runs, lovely. Couldn't drive it because of all the rear end's been apart. We need to get it aligned. And that's why I'm here today. I'm over at Cartwright where I work. So first things first, a real big thank you to Tim, my boss. Really appreciate it because he's lent me the UK motor buyer transporter to bring the car over here, and he's lent me the facility to use the Hunter machine over here as well. And a thank you to Dan, who's going to be working on the car. But I need to backtrack a little bit because there's been a few more setbacks. I need to show you the bad with the good. So here goes. Since the last video, I mentioned in that video actually that there was a few little niggles we needed to address. So the oil filter housing was seeping and the drive belt was squeaking because it was too long. No biggie. Anyway, that video I may have filmed prematurely because Rich hadn't finished his nut and bolt check. So just to make sure the car's A-okay, everything's done up, there's no leaks, it's safe to drive, subject to the alignment of course. So he set about doing that the day after I filmed the last video, and he raised some concerns. So let me try and list them. Bear with. Now, the first thing you notice was when he was torquing the wheels, I think it was, the near side front, passenger front, you move the wheel left to right and there's a bit of play there, which is no good. Turns out that was the passenger front suspension arm. That needed replacing. So as a matter of course, we did the pair. While he was under the car checking for that, noticed that the track rods and tie rods on the front to give you the toe adjustment were C-solid. So that wasn't going to work for getting the alignment done. Had to replace those. Shame, but no biggie. It's an 18-year-old car. You sort of expect things like that. So anyway, replaced the front suspension arms. They're brand spanking new on the front. Replaced the track rods and tie rods. They're brand spanking new. When he was doing the tie rods, I think it was, there's a rubber gaiter that covers the element where the tie rod connects to the steering rack. And I should note that Rich had already mentioned before we need to top the power steering fluid up because it was low. There was no leaks underneath the car, so it was assumed that it just needed topping up. Anyway, when he pulled the rubber gaiter back, take a look at what happened. So that's no good. You shouldn't do that. That is power steering fluid. And what's happened is all the fluid's been collecting in the gaiters there, and yeah, when he pulled the rubber back, as you can see, it flooded the workshop with power steering fluid. No good. That needs a new rack then. So we also had to buy a new power steering rack. So just to bring you in the picture, since we did the video on what the car has cost us so far, we've had to revamp the cooling system. We've serviced the car, replaced all the fluids and oils, brake fluid, diff fluid, gearbox fluid, coolant, etc. We've had to then replace the front suspension arms. We've had to replace the track rods and the tie rods and a new purple tag rack. So that bulk has cost us a further, say, £2,000-ish. So it seems this car, this project even, is sort of riddled with setbacks and dips in the wallet, but what can you do, isn't it? No one ever said motorsport was cheap, and no one ever said that 18-year-old E46s were cheap either. But listen, for the purpose the car is intended for, it's got to be bob on. As I said before, there's no point spending loads of money on modifications and stuff like that just to put it out on the track and something horribly go wrong. I'd much rather that it drops all its power steering fluid while it's in a position where we've not committed to a race or a track day and we can just get about doing it. A setback, yes. An inconvenience, yes. An unfortunate spend, yes. But anyway, that's that covered. So you're up to speed with what we've spent. The next port of call was to go back to how I started this video. I needed to bring the car over to Cartwright where I work to get it on the Hunter machine. So I set about doing that. I loaded the car up on the UK motor buyer transporter and couried it back over to Cartwright over here in Broughton. The next part of the process was we wanted to get it on the Hunter wheel alignment machine so that I could get the geometry done to a degree where it was just safe and usable on the road. Because in a minute we're going to be buying coilovers and things like that. So there's no point getting it geoed for track or an aggressive setup because it's not got the componentry to to make us want to use it for that purpose anyway at the minute, and I'd have to get it all done again. So yeah, long story short, unloaded it over at Cartwright. Dan brought the car into the workshop, so it's up on the ramp, and we set about getting the alignment done using the Hunter machine. So the first thing to do was use the older school method, the laser alignment, just to bring the front into touch, because if we load it on the Hunter machine as it is and the front's too far out, it'll throw off all the readings for the back apparently. So fine, loaded it, set it up, the front end came in nicely. So it's time to use the Hunter machine. Now the Hunter machine, if you haven't seen one being used, it's a really, really smart piece of equipment. We'll go through it really quickly how you use it. So you set it up with these individual sensors that go on each of the wheels, and then this big arch type device sits in front of the car, and it takes a reading off those sensors after it shoots a laser at it to give you an active look at how the geometry is set. And the equipment's really smart. So the computer, you plug it in and enter the car that you want to adjust. So we put in BMW E46 coupe, and you select the suspension. So sport suspension, because that's what the 330 comes with, sport suspension. And then it brings up this screen, which shows you basically a live reading of where the car sits in terms of its geometry against the tolerances. So we're aiming to get it in that little green section in the middle, and as you can see, it's pretty much all in the red at the moment. And the way you get it in the green is by adjusting the toe and the camber. So for an E46 on the front, the toe's adjustable using the tie rods. They're brand new, so easy to do, easy to adjust. And the camber, if you want to adjust the camber, I think it's got a very small amount of adjustment. There's a little silver, like a little pin in the strut tower at the top that you have to release, so that you can make some minor adjustments on the strut essentially. So I wasn't worried about that too much. We just wanted to get it in a rough spec for the front, because we're going to be replacing it with adjustable coilovers and camber plates anyway. The rear end is a bit of a pig, because the toe adjustment's done via the rear trailing arm, and the bolts are up under on the bracket, which is up under the sort of behind the wheel arch, as you can see here. The camber's nice and easy because we've got brand new adjustable camber arms on there, so that was going to be easy for the back. So, all set up, all in place, ready to go. Dan started making the adjustments, and the arrows were coming in. They were coming into touch nicely. But every now and then, Dan noticed that the screen would sort of, the arrows would flicker, like it would flick out of the green back into the red and vice versa. So initially we thought that was maybe the wind interfering or the ramp rocking a little bit. So we sort of persevered and carried on. Anyway, finally brought the car into specs. So on the screen, it looked great. However, I don't know if you can see it in this clip. Let me play it really quickly. As we did a visual check on the car, from the back of the car, as you're staring at the rear end of it, the left-hand rear wheel looked like this, and the right-hand rear wheel looked like this. So it's completely different, yet the machine was telling us that both sides were almost identical in terms of camber setup, whereas obviously that's just obviously not the case. Anyway, we were fiddling, we reset the computer, tried the different suspension setups. We could not get anything to work. The readings came out pretty much the same all the time, by saying that that physical appearance on the car meant that on the screen. So there's obviously a problem. And Dan seems to think that it's probably, maybe the calibration's dropped out overnight on one of the sensors on the machine. So unfortunately, he's had to call the company in that does the calibration for the Hunter, because we've got to start there. So a setback for us and a setback for Cartwright as well, because it means I can't get the E46 aligned, and Cartwright can't set about doing any alignment on any of the cars on the rear, at least until that calibration's sort of confirmed and then reset if necessary. I'm hoping that it is a calibration thing, because otherwise it means something's horrendously bent at the back, which I just can't see being the case after all that we've done. It's not all lost though, because Dan's going to come in tomorrow. It's Saturday night now. Dan's going to come in tomorrow for me, bless him, thank you Dan, and just do it by old school, essentially do it manually, so that the car's safe to drive. And then I'm going to take it to Malvern Tyres on Monday and use their four-wheel alignment machine, purely because I don't know the lead times to getting the Hunter calibrated, and I'm impatient. I want to drive the car, so that's what I'm going to do. So hopefully we'll show you a little bit tomorrow about this car being done, and then I'm going to leave the video here for now, and we'll revisit once I get the alignment and everything done on Monday. So fingers crossed, by Monday afternoon we'll have an E46 that's pretty much brand new underneath, aligned and fit for the road. So wish us luck, and yeah, we'll see how we get on Sunday and Monday. All right, so we're back. It's Sunday. Well, I've been here all day because I've been at work, but Dan's come in on his day off, as I said a minute ago in the video, to finish the alignment off on the back. So he's had to do it all manually. He's given me the thumbs up that he feels the car's straight and it's within measurements. So we've got it on the floor, and it does look really nice when it's on the floor, this car. I'm really, really enjoying the look of it, and I sincerely cannot wait to drive it. I hope it drives as well as it looks, and it should do, the amount of money we've spent on the underbody, but never mind, such is life. Anyway, I'm going to get the car out on the road and just spin it around the block in a minute, just to sort of make sure, I guess, that it feels good underfoot, and then I will pop it up the road to Malvern's tomorrow, where it can go on their alignment machine, so that we can be 100% that it's all straight and true, and then we can give it a proper drive, which I'm very, very, very much looking forward to. I can't think I've ever spent this much money, or we've ever spent this much money on a car that we've not driven to see the effects, I guess, which is weird, but we're close. So wish us luck, and yeah, we'll give it a spin in a sec, see what it's like. Right, so we're in the car, and yeah, you'll notice my clothes have changed because it's a different day. It's Monday. I couldn't get the video done last night of the preliminary drive because the weather was so bad, and I lost the light essentially, so the camera quality just turned out to be, it was so bad, so I didn't bother keeping that footage. But anyway, I'm on the way to the tyre place now. I've got a couple of errands to run. I've just sort of been up there, and they've said, yeah, it doesn't look unsafe, so yeah, basically pop back in an hour. So I'm going to run a couple of errands first and see what it's like. But first impressions are transformation. The car drives completely different how I remember it, and I don't think that's sort of placebo effect at all. The car feels really tight. I'm very, very familiar with E46s, and they do not feel like this at all. It feels really tight, the steering's nice and direct, the rear end feels really quite taut and connected, which is nice. So it's nice to, I do think that all that money we've spent's made some difference, and I know that it's a safe and reliable car, touch wood. So yeah, I think we'll leave it there for now, because there's not too much to talk about until I get the tracking done. Once that's done, we'll give it a proper road test and maybe put us through its paces a little bit. So yeah, we'll see you in a bit. Right, so we're back. The car's been aligned, it's off the ramp, it's all done, and the guys at Malvern's have given it the green light. So we are happy that the car is now safe, straight, secure to be driven on the road at our whim. I couldn't get much footage of the car in at Malvern Tyres while the alignment was being done. I mean, you get the idea of how it had to go based on the episode we had with the Hunter, but it's a very busy place, Malvern, and they do a lot of walk-ins, so Graham and the guys were kind enough to squeeze me in between jobs, and I didn't want to sort of interrupt anything or upset anyone by sort of prancing around with a video camera and have customers thinking, well, that's why my car's taken so long to get looked at, because I got this M. Night Shyamalan wannabe video in his car and messing about, so I just let them get on with it. But yeah, the result is the result, and it feels absolutely bob on. The car drives straight. It felt fine going up there anyway, but I think the feedback was it was ever so slightly out, so Dan did a really good job manually measuring the car up and lining it up, but just a few little tweaks, and yeah, the car does feel fine. And I guess well, the summary then, and the question to answer is, how does the car feel after all that money has been spent on it? Is it much different? Has it made a difference? Was it worth it? And the short answer is yes, it is so different now, this car, how it drives. I mean, a lot of the money we spent was preventative maintenance. What have I got in the boot there? Yeah, a lot of the money we spent was preventative maintenance, of course, and future-proofing, but the bulk of the money on things like the bushes, when you consider we've spent sort of £1,200–1,300 plus on bushes, and you want to know if it's made a difference, God, has it ever? It is night and day, this car now. The chassis feels so tight. and even the little things that we've done, that solid steering damper, the steering feels, it has got rid of that horrible vagueness. I mean, you turn the wheel now and the car instantly moves. There's none of that sort of little delay. Yeah, I honestly can't, I don't think I can put it into words how different that chassis overhaul makes the car feel now. It's transformed how the E46 feels. Traditionally, you know, a standard E46, even an M Sport trim, is a soft car. It's a cruiser. You know what I mean? It does. It's a quiet, comfy, gentle cruiser. So they're vague. They feel vague underfoot. The steering's not very direct. The car doesn't sort of talk to you and communicate to you where it's struggling or enjoying itself, as crazy as that might sound. Whereas, like, for instance, an M car does. You jump in an M car and it feels, you think, crikey, the car's actually built round me. And that's what this car's starting to feel like now. It feels much more in tune with me as a driver than before. And I can't explain how good that feels. It just feels so tight. The front end feels so compliant. The rear end feels taut and set and planted. The front end feels direct and quick. It's absolutely transformed the car. It just feels tight, feels really quite purposeful, the car, that you could sort of throw it at a track now and it won't be a vague sort of floaty mess, and it wouldn't be. We're not going to do that, of course, because there's still some components that we must change before that's a possibility in my eyes. The coilovers need changing. That's got to be one of the next things. And this, I didn't think it was so apparently necessary before, but this this standard gear ratio, the final drive in this gearbox, is just awful for the track. I would suggest it 50 miles an hour in third gear, the car hangs at about 3200 RPM at 50 mile an hour in third. It's nuts, that is. So you're close to the national speed limit. Where do you go from there? God knows what third winds out at, but I tell you now, around somewhere like Castle Combe, which is our local, I can't see you being out of second or third until you get to the back straight, and I don't know where in the rev range you'll be, really. I can't honestly think that it's a very competitive idea to leave that gearbox, well, I guess, yeah, the diff and final drive setup as it is for much or any longer. It's fine for everyday use because it's fine to cruise, but I think that needs addressing sooner rather than later, really. So I think the plan will be when we go back now, it's got to go back over to Rich anyway, because the one thing they did notice on the ramp is that the power steering rack, the blooming new rack that we've put in, is weeping slightly, so Rich has got to have a look at that. That's no biggie. I think we need a conversation with him about what's safe and sensible to tackle as an export call. I think it's got to be coilovers, strut bars, and that LSD and shorter final drive. I think, unless I'm missing something, things like the exhaust and that can wait, and the roll cage can wait until a bit later. Yeah, so I guess we need to have a sensible chat about it and assess what our next moves are. But yeah, anyway, the car is absolutely night and day. And I do see the value in what we've spent. I can actually feel the value now and see the value for myself. So I'll sleep better at night now. And I think that's probably enough for this video, I guess. That'll do it in summary. Absolutely over the moon at the stage we've got to so far. And yeah, just a quick set of thank yous. So I must thank Tim, my boss over at Cartwright, for lending me use of the workshop and the transporter. Massive thanks to Dan for staying on the weekend and helping me line the car up, or lining the car up for me. And massive thanks to Graham at Malvern Tyres and the team there for getting the alignment done for me today. And as always, a massive thanks to Rich at Ball Motorworks. Genuinely couldn't do this without him. So Rich, again, if you're watching, mate, thank you ever so much. We should be watching and subscribing. Excuse me, serves me right. So yeah, with all those thank yous done, I think that's enough. We'll conclude the video there, and maybe get Greg out in the car later on and see if we can have a little blast with it. But yeah, for now, super happy. Car feels bob on. So if we can, we'll have a little bit of fun in it, I think. Thanks very much if you're watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really helps us out. And subscribe if you want to see more. Feel free to leave your comments, positive or negative. I'm happy to learn and accept positive criticism. Just keep it clean, as I always say. And we very much look forward to seeing you in the next one.